Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sports Esports Podcast. This is the LPL edition. This is week 3, week 4. It's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mix here because they did half the week 2 weeks ago, and then the rest of the half coming in this week. Uh, so for the start, these games were a while ago. These games started back on, I believe, January? Let me look up the schedule real quick. I should have done that before the podcast. Yeah, in January. So January 28th was when we had these games. So they're kind of old news. So what I'm going to do. Oh, and by the way, it's just me today. Instead, Brock wasn't able to make it for this one. But he'll be back tomorrow for the NA one. Uh, so today we have today we're going to be talking LPL. Most of these games happened on Monday the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th. Then they had Chinese New Year, which they won't be back until Friday, February 15th, is when we'll start these games. For the games, we both had our worst weeks of the year. I had originally gone 9-3, 9-3. Now I only went 3-3 this week, but there was a few upsets, and we'll briefly talk about the games. I won't talk too much about them because, like I said, they're already 2 weeks old. So I'll just give a quick rundown. The first game of the week was Vici Gaming versus Scion Dragon. I've been a big fan of Scion Dragon. Sadly, they did fall in this game. I did predict them to fall, though. I believe Vici had been looking amazing. They took a game off EDG. They've taken a game off every opponent they had faced, but they had never actually secured a full 2-1 win. But they finally did that. They went 2-1 against Scion Dragon, and they looked very well doing it. I do have some notes about it. Uh, Vici actually Scion Dragon, dominated in game 1 completely, but Twilla was actually doing insane on the Aatrox and not just his normal control mages, so he was actually doing really well. But Vici Gaming completely turned around for game 2. They played right through their bot lane. They won yet another game. Vici has not been swept all year, and so it's a very strong start for Vici, who has always been a last place team. Southwind and Puff were just dominating, and I was really impressed. I've been impressed with Southwind in all these games. I think he's a very good support. And then game number 3 was very careful, very slow game by Vici, but they knew exactly what they needed to do to win. Gala looked good on the Kaisa, but it wasn't enough for Scion Dragon. There was very solid team effort all around, but my MVP again was Southwind. He played amazing on the Alistair, and he made the team fights work. I thought Vici as a whole have looked very good this year, and they've taken games off teams as well. So like, I almost have them as one of the better like one-win teams. I think they are personally the best one-win team out there. Next series we had Victory 5 versus OMG. I originally going into the series had Victory 5 as one of the worst teams in the league. I was very disappointed with how they've started their uh, franchise, I should say, like, because they're new along with Scion Dragon, but they actually proved me completely wrong this week. They obliterated OMG, and not only that, Jinu on Riven was amazing. My notes here say that absolutely you can never for game number 1 they gave OMG's coaching staff terrible draft. They gave Victory 5 Galio, Camille, Alistar. That is so much wombo in there. Like, that is insane. It allowed Jinu to play Riven because you had your front line with the Galio and the Alistar, and you had your Camille for the engage already. So now you free up the ability for Riven, who Jinu used to be a one-trick Riven, or a Riven streamer, I believe, and you give him all this flanking time, and he popped off with it. It was amazing. And I figured they were gonna be very difficult for OMG to come back. I even said if they're gonna draft like that. And game 2, Jino gets Riven again, and he dominates yet again. And I hated OMG's draft again. I thought it was weird and it was too much. It was like they tried to flex pick everything and nothing worked out. It was very ugly. I was very disappointed with Ali, or Ale or Ali. Depends on which announcer is saying his name. But I was very disappointed with his performance, and he really let the Riven work out a lot for Jinwoo, and not take anything away from Jinwoo either. Jinwoo played Riven fabulously, and against Ale is quite amazing as well, because I had high hopes for him. He's been doing very well, but now that OMG's 1-3, I've been very disappointed. Them and Snake started out the season so hot, like big, like burn bright and die quickly kind of thing. Like they're like a sun, like a star, I should say. But man, they're both 1-3 and 1-4 respectively, and it's just not looking great for either of them. And they're actually towards the bottom of my list now for teams, where I originally had like OMG and Snake as some of the better teams coming into after week 1, I should say. Uh, some of these games, if I say some things wrong, it's because they were 2 weeks ago, and it's kind of hard to remember. Uh, Game number 3, or series number 3, was Top versus LGD. I do remember this one was quite a blowout. It was kind of hard to choose an MVP though for Top because everyone was playing so well. I did give it the 369 on the Urgot because he was able to keep the Darius shut down. And Darius is very difficult to shut down as Urgot. I always ban Darius every game as a top laner, especially, and it's very nice to see him get shut down. Hey, True Frost. I saw it this time. I think I saw it pretty quick. Hopefully. Yeah, it's very impressive against Darius. I do not like facing Darius at all. It's top lane main. I always ban him. And on the LGG side, they still look like 4 pretty below average players in Kramer. Kramer is in elo hell right now. It's very sad. Game number 2 was almost the exact same. Is Top is just simply better at LGD at every position, even in the bot lane, even with Kramer. Kramer's the only one that can compete really, and he can't compete with his support and his supporting cast around him. It was just a shame. And Top just looked dominant like they should have, and I was very impressed. They've moved on to a 3-1 start. Oh, my favorite character, True Frost? I'm glad you asked. I have quite a few, but Jhin would have to be my favorite overall. My most played character is Leona on support, but I do mostly main Top, and my mains on Top are Cho'Gath, Maokai, Malphite, Urgot now. I've recently picked up Urgot in the last few months because my mains are out of the meta because it's not a really big tank meta. And I'm kind of trying to learn Scion at the moment because he's the only tank left. But yeah, Jhin is definitely my favorite thematically champion, and you feel so good playing. Like you can get in that like serial killer mindset when you're playing him. It's like a great theme for character, and he has a great lore. I love lore about champions and stuff like that, and a lot of those other champions I mentioned don't have fantastic lore. Leona has a little bit, but like Cho'Gath and stuff, it's very bland, very basic. So Jhin is definitely my favorite overall. Next series we had EDG versus Team WE. What a shame. What a shame by EDG. Team WE was definitely one of the worst teams coming in this to this game. They were looking very bad, and the first game went 50 minutes, and somehow Team WE held the lead the whole time. But even everyone on EG besides for Scout looked pretty terrible. I wrote that, especially Haru and Ray. Ray especially, I do remember, got caught out constantly. He was caught out like 6-7 times in the same game. It was unacceptable. And I've seen a lot of issues with EDG, and even though they're 2-1, I still think they were going to be able to win this series. When I wrote this note for game 1, I'm going to be bold and say that I even wrote this here. I wrote this 2 weeks ago. I think EDG is going to miss the playoffs, possibly. I'm not super bold on it, but like they're gonna miss the playoffs. I'll double down. They're gonna miss the playoffs. Screw it. I was gonna say maybe they can get the 8 seed, but no, I'll double down. I'll say that EDG will miss the playoffs this year. I'm gonna go bold, as bold as I can get. They've always been a staple in the LPL, always representing China, MSI, and Worlds and stuff. I'm going to say they're going to miss the playoffs in spring because I have seen very little improvement, and I've seen some like unimprovement, if that's like some regression in their skill from earlier in the year, and they didn't look great earlier in the year as well. I think they haven't played any of the big teams yet, and I think that they've looked poor against some pretty poor teams, personally. And even game number 2, they lost game number 2 against the Team WE, and Team WE swept them. That's unacceptable if you're EDG. You cannot be swept by Team WE, especially with how poor they've been playing. Team WE didn't have a win, and they didn't look very good in any other games either. Just not good all around. IG versus Snake. IG, man, Snake started out so big in game one, and then they just made one too many mistakes against IG, and IG is gonna tear you apart if you make mistakes against them. Jackie Love played very well on the Zaya, and he was the biggest reason that IG was able to come back. IG has looked pretty sloppy in a sense this year. But even in game two, Snake only played okay, but IG was just too much, and they were a little more cleaner. But overall, IG's played a little sloppy, but I think it's more of a cockiness as a world champions, like defending world champions, and that's how they play usually. Is they play super aggressive, super cocky, kind of very Vitality style a bit as well. And they're so aggressive because they know they're better than you. They know individually the Shy can go 1v1 against any top laner in the world. Rookie can go 1v1 against any top or mid laner in the world. A Ning can go 1v1 against any jungler in the world. Maybe Tarzan, maybe not, but like all three. And then obviously you have Jackie Love on bot lane, who's one of the best ADCs now. He's up and coming. He's always been known as the one that flashes forward and is like disrespectful. Well, like, or he's disrespectful of other teams' CC and stuff. Well, now he's gotten better mechanically. That even though he still flashes forward sometimes, he's gonna get the kill this time as well. And Balan as well has always been a solid support. So they're all very good. They're top of the line, probably top 5, top 10 at worst. Best players at every position on the team. So they have room to be a little cocky, but it has led to some sloppy performances, which is why they are currently 4-1 and not undefeated. I think come time by playoffs, I think they'll be a top team in playoffs, and if they focus down, that they have one of the strongest chances to be the team representing LPL at MSI. Because remember, only one team represents each region at MSI. We have finally the final game of the or final series of the week was FPX versus, or I put FPP here, Fun Plus Phoenix. Yeah, I guess FPX is the proper name though. FPX versus Sunning, and as you can tell by our power rankings, this was a very, very good series. But FPX was able to pull it out. I did not expect that. I personally thought Sunning was like a top 2 team in the world. But not that they're not, like, still top 5. I still put them in the top 5. I honestly have FPX, IG, and Sunning all in the top 5. I think LPL is a very top-heavy region, and I think they have at least 4 teams that are near top 10 level talent. And I really like their whole style of the LPL, the more aggressive style. But talking about the FPX Sunning, my notes say that game 1 was a very close match, but SN slowly won this game thanks to SMLZ. This was a bit weird though because SN did not start Hacker or Maple, so it was a bit frustrating because I was looking, but they did because I was kind of looking for Sunning like a big battle between them for all the games, but I believe Hacker and Maple both had the flu, and that's why they weren't originally starting. Though I think that even though they were still able to beat FPX, who was a top 10 team worldwide, is what I put without either player, is quite insane for Sunning. However, game number 2, another amazing game, but FPX took it this time. Gets the edge over Sunning. LWX this time on Kaisa carried SN Gaming. Oh my god. I said SN, but I meant FPX. But I think LWX and SMLZ are 2 of the best Kaisa players in the world, along with Jackie Love. I think China plays Kaisa very well. I think Kaisa's best region is in China. All the best teams are very strong on Kaisa, and I think that because of that, I think Kaisa is one of the best ADCs in the game. She's one of my personal favorites as well. So that's why I always consider the LPL bot lanes better than most other regions. And even Viper in LCK, he also plays very good Kaisa. And Double Lift in NA. All the top ADCs, you have to be a top ADC. To be a top ADC right now, you have to play a very good Kaisa. That's why I think Reckless struggles a bit, because his Kaisa is not as clean as the others. And finally, game number 3. It was best series of the year so far, I thought. It was such close back and forth. All 3 games were so close. But FPX finally took it. Again, the only like asterisk you can put towards it is Hacker and Maple. They both had the flu, but Doinby had a phenomenal game, and he really showed up against Maple. Even though Maple had the flu, like I said, but Doinby really stepped up, and it's just timing. When you play someone, you play someone. You can't really make too many excuses out of it, and you got to give FPX credit. They came back from an 0-1 start. They came up 2-0, and now they're 4-0 as a team in China. They're the last undefeated team in China, and that's very significant considering I think they have gone against Sunning as well. So they've gone against a top team, and I think Fun Plus Phoenix, I don't think a lot of people know about them outside of the LPL, and they're going to be they're a big surprise, I think, and they should be getting a lot of fans. I think Doinby's doing very well, and LWX is insane on ADC as well. I think that I really like watching them, and I would like to see them go further in the playoffs and see what they can do in the playoffs against IG and Sunning and teams like that. I think it's a time for a little bit new blood in the LPL region. I think EDG move away. RNG, I would have said move away, but Uzi coming back at the same time patch point 9.3 comes out and ADCs are back online, that's going to be hard to deny them. I think that this is just in time for RNG to make a deep run. But speaking of all those games, we can talk let's talk players of the week real quick. Just do these super quickly because again, these are from 2 weeks ago. Top Jinu, obviously we talked about him. He was definitely a player of the week. KDA of 26, a DPM of 420. Where's the other? I lost my notes. Oh, gold per minute, 463, which was insane. His best game, obviously, is a 7-0-8 on Riven against OMG. Played both games of Riven, and we talked about earlier, he just straight up dominated. It's a fantastic performance by Jinu this week. Jungle was Magic on Team WE. He had KD at 14.5, assists per game of 12.5, and his best game was 3-2-17 on Gragas versus EDG. Mid was top Knight. Knight had a great performance against as well against LGD. He had a KDA of an 11, a CS per minute of 92, damage per minute of 664, and his best game was 6-0-11 on Galio. That was a very good performance. His ADC of the week was Y4. Y4 had a 31 KDA. He had 8.5 CS per minute. 31 KDA was insane, by the way. Damage percentage was 32%. Damage per minute 574, and he went 10-1-6 against Kaisa, or as Kaisa against OMG. I kind of wanted to put LWX there as well, but his numbers weren't as clean because of his game one. His game one, he struggled a bit. Support was top Ben. KD 36, average assists were 15.5. His best game was 2-1-17 on the Rakan versus LGD. And now we will go over quickly to the power rankings for week number 3/week 4. It's like kind of a mixture of, I'll just do week 3/week 4 there because I'll put week 4. I'll put week 4 here because you can't really change them. There's so many games. Or so few games at the moment. They're kind of like combined week here. First, we both have Fun Plus Phoenix. Me and Brock have Fun Plus Phoenix as number 1. Obviously, they're the only undefeated team left, and they took down Sunning, who was the team that we had up at number 1 before. I thought Sunning losing the Fun Plus Phoenix dropped them number 3. IG 1. Still have high confidence in both these teams. It's no slight towards Sunning in any way. Brock has Sunning number 2 and IG number 3. I think IG took care of business, and I still think IG is a very solid team and very scary when it comes to a best of 5. If they took all the games serious, I think they could potentially be the best team in LPL still. We both have top number 4. I think top is also one of those teams. Like I think they're on if they're like an S plus tier, I'd put Sunning, IG, and SFPX. Then top would be the S tier. And they're still a very solid team. I'd still consider them even a top 10 team in the world. JDG is number 5. I think they didn't really play this week, but they had such a solid performance. They beat IG, and that deserves to stay at number 5. RNG has moved up to number 6 because I dropped EDG quite a bit. I dropped EDG to number 8 on the year. I mean, that's not too much, but I dropped them number 8 because they're still 2-2. But I have a lot of red flags with this team, and like I said before, I think EDG is going to miss the playoffs this year. I think Billy moved up. Billy's a solid team. This year at 2-1. Vici Gaming, I moved all the way up to number 9. They have looked fantastic with taking a game off EDG, and now they finally won a game against Scion Dragon, who I have number 10. I have Scion Dragon because they did lose to Vici Gaming, but I think Vici Gaming is a pretty solid team. So I can't slight Scion Dragon too much for it. I can put Vici Gaming above them, but not like that. But I think they're pretty equal team-wise. Victory 5 moved up greatly because they destroyed OMG, and I thought that was a fantastic performance by them to move them all the way up to number 11 from 14. Then we have Team WE, who took down EDG. They are also moved way up. They were number 15 on my list, so they moved right up to number 12. And they 2-0'd EDG too, which is very impressive by them. Hopefully they can use that for some momentum to move on, keep moving on the season, because I originally thought they were very bad with just Mystic on the team, like holding the fort. Snake dropped to number 13. They haven't won since the first week where they took down EDG, and they have not looked good since then. They're 1-4. They've played the most games, or they've lost just as many games as LGD, but they've played an extra game. OMG also has looked pretty bad since the first week. Ale has looked okay, but he did not look great last week, and I'm starting to get worried that it was a little too much hype at the beginning. And hopefully he can improve though and get better. But I'd appreciate it because I like to see good gameplay. But he's been overextending a little too much and trying to do too much in the wrong times and getting caught out for it. I have Rogue Warriors sadly at number 15. I think they're still a young team. They did win a game, which I thought was fine, but I think the issue was Vici Gaming, Victory 5, and Team WE all coming away with wins last week. It propelled them up and just sadly moved Rogue Warriors down. And LGD, sadly, the one team below them, or the one bottom tier team that did not get a win last week, so they are staying at number 16. And I consider LGD, sadly, with Kramer is stuck in Elo hell, like I said before, because I consider LGD a bottom 4 team, bottom 5, I'd say bottom 5 team in all of the major regions at the moment. So with that, we'll go over to my predictions. I already have Brock's predictions here, but we'll do mine as well at the same time. I have the first game is RNG versus Vici Gaming. I know I've been talking up Vici Gaming a lot. Sadly, I think that they will not win this one. I believe RNG will win this one with Uzi coming back from Chinese New Year. He always takes a break before Chinese New Year. But it's perfect timing. It's like he planned it almost because crit ADCs are back. ADCs are going to be back in the meta at 9.3 with all the crit changes, and a lot of the carry champions of Aurelia, Akali's, they all got nerfed into the ground, so they're not going to be there to assassinate you as an ADC. So I think ADC meta is going to be high priority, and that perfect person to have come back at that is Uzi for RNG. So I think RNG will actually shoot up, and they'll be along those top 4 with the LPL to make it a very competitive top 5. I would say those top 5 teams could potentially be top 10, top 15 at worst teams in the world. Like you could potentially, I think the LPL is the strongest region right now, especially with these crit changes to change RNG. And I think this will be It'll be awesome to see all this competitive on the top side of the region. There's a lot of bottom tier teams as well, but they're very top heavy, but those top teams going against each other, I'm very excited to see. I think Vici Gaming will take a game though, because they have yet to be swept. And I think they might take the first one while Uzi's just getting back into the flow, and then RNG will figure them out and win 2 games after that. Next game is Scion Dragon Gaming versus Rogue Warriors. I also have Scion Dragon Gaming. I think this will be a 2-1. I think Rogue Warriors have looked fairly better than what most people have given them credit for. They are still towards a bottom tier team. However, I think Scion Dragon will bounce back from their loss from Vici Gaming. I still think Scion Dragon's a very good team. They're a bunch of rookies, but they're playing very well. They're over most people's expectations. Most people had them at 15th, 16th, and I think they also had Rogue Warriors at 15th and 16th. So I think both of these teams are coming in with a lot to prove. I think Scion Dragon is slightly better. They've been showing a lot better teamwork compared to Rogue Warriors, and I think they're going to take this one 2-1. It'll be a close series though, and I think Scion Dragon is for real. Like I said, I think Scion Dragon could easily. I think Scion Dragon like 8 times there, but I think they can make playoffs, and if not, they'll be like a 9th, 10th place team at worst, personally. That's what I feel. JDG versus Billy. You know how much I love Billy over here? Sadly, I went with JDG because they beat IG last game. That last time we saw them, they beat IG, and that is a huge momentum boost for them. They have Levi in the jungle. They also have Flawless in the jungle. They've both looked pretty good. Flawless has looked slightly better, but he's had higher highs with lower lows, where Levi's look kind of average. I think either way, you can mix that up and you can play them with both of the. You can play them both, and you can like really force an enemy team to game plan for both of them, so it's extra work for them. And I think JDD is actually going to step it up, and they very. I had them as being one of the worst teams in the league coming in because I did not see a lot, but them beating IG has completely flipped my mind around, and I think that that is a huge win for them, and they should be able to beat Billy Billy, but it will be a 2-1 because Billy Billy is also a very solid team, and I can see them as a dark horse in the playoffs. I don't think they're as good as the other top 4 teams, but they're right up there. They're on the right next echelon of teams. Next, we have IG versus LGD. I really don't need much analysis here. This is kind of simple. IG is a top 5 team in the world. LGD is a bottom 5 team in the world. Case closed. Or bottom 5 in the major regions, I should say. I don't watch personally I don't have time to watch the minor regions. I wish I could. I love watching League. I love, as you can tell, I watch 5 regions right now, but I physically don't have enough time to watch the minor regions like Brazil and stuff. So I can't wait to MSI to see some of those regions, like Japan and stuff, and Oceania. Game number 5. We have Fun Plus Phoenix. Why does that say Fox? I don't know why I put Fox. FPX. I must have been a typo. But FPX versus Team WE. I think Team WE had a fantastic week 2 weeks ago against EDG. They beat EDG solidly, but I think that doesn't matter because Fun Plus Phoenix is number 1 team in the league, and I see them going 2-0, and they're going to continue and start the season 5-0 and show that they are one of the dominant teams in all of China and all the world, really. I think Doinby is really proven. He is kind of like the spark plug to this team, but also the weak link in a sense. He's so aggressive and he always goes in, and that's hit or miss, you know? Sometimes that works out really well, sometimes it doesn't. But I think against Team WE, this will work very well, and they'll go 2-0 in this week to improve to undefeated. 2-0 in this series, I should say, to go undefeated for the week. Finally, the last series, we have RNG versus EDG. RNG, like I said before, I love Uzi coming back. I love that he's coming back on the ADC buff, and I hate what EDG has done so far this year. And I think they've looked really messy. They look not coordinated at all, and I think they lose this one 2-0. And like I said, this will be another loss to EDG that would put them at, I believe, 2-3 on the year, which is okay, but this EDG team does not impress me at all until I see improvements. The only one that's impressing me is Scout. I think Ray's had a terrible split so far. Even iBoy has struggled a ton in the split. I just do not like what I'm seeing. And like I said, I mean, I could be completely wrong. That's what doing predictions and stuff is. It's not like I'm not a prophet here. I just watch the games and then predict off of what I see. And I see that EDG could miss the playoffs very easily. I don't want to go back on it. I gotta say, EG's gonna miss the playoffs. Like, the only thing I could see is like a 7th or 8th, but like get swept out immediately after that. But like, I think they will miss the playoffs. I'm gonna stick with my bold prediction. But that means RNG goes 2-0. And that means me and Brock have all the same picks this week except for series number 3. So that will be interesting because I am currently 1 game ahead of Brock at 21-9 at the moment. I'm doing pretty. This is my best region. It was tied with Europe, but I had a pretty bad week this week with Europe. So that is all for this one. It's a pretty quick episode. Only 27 minutes. But again, there was only a few games, only 6 series, and they were from 2 weeks ago, so I didn't want to spend too much time on them. But I thank you guys for watching. And obviously I didn't have Brock here, so we didn't have any back and forth conversation, so it was more of a rundown. Thank you guys for watching, though. You can follow us on Twitter at support esports. Again, we're still working on the rebranding thing. It takes a while because we have big plans. I'm really excited to do those. You can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/kinglinkfan, and you can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/kinglinkfan. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys tomorrow for the NA podcast. Bye.